So gentlemen, Atomic Hearts has been making its rounds in the gaming community, and I can think of two very voluptuous reasons as to why that is, and one very square one.
Dad, I can't get enough. Jocks, let me tie you to the bed, baby. No need to fight back, sugar. Love this.
And when I heard that Atomic Hearts was coming out with an art book, I just knew I had to do a review on this thing, much like I did with Scorn. And I assume you guys do too, which is why you're here, and why nobody ever watches anything other than my review of art books. I'm known for more than my reviews and art books, right guys? Right, on to Atomic Hearts art book. I will say that I haven't actually completed the game yet. I got up to the first Hog 7 boss fight. And of course, if you hop over to my Twitch, you can see me playing the game. And if you're watching this video the same day I upload it, then I'll probably be streaming more of it tonight. Though if you don't catch it, I'll likely upload it to YouTube. So going through Atomic Hearts art book, given I haven't completed the game, there's going to be a lot of, well, spoilers for me in this, and of course, if you didn't already guess, there's obviously going to be spoilers for you as well if you haven't completed it. Though I will say that I did make sure to watch a few YouTube videos explaining the lore of Atomic Hearts to get catched up, to understand the story and what's going on. I've spoiled it for myself, but it's all in the name of bringing good content to you people. First dive into Atomic Hearts art book leads us to this lovely collage of a few different logos, all neatly arranged. Although the first couple of pages are just an introduction and a contents page, nothing too much to note about. Though it jumps us right into the introduction and background world into Atomic Hearts itself, and it tells us all about the alternate history that led up to the point we are now. The scientific achievements of our country, the great USSR, has changed the lives of not only our compatriots but also the inhabitants of the entire world, and you are among the first to have the honour of visiting the place where it all began, Facility 3826. The ideas of Dmitry Sergeyevich Sechenov, as well as his friends Vavilov, Chelmy, Pavlov, Cholkovsky, Filomenenko, Zakharov, and other great scientists led a revolution in science and industry. Sechenov's discovery of polymer mimicry, adaptation technology, and a number of breakthroughs in botany, biology, and cybernetics that followed made the USSR a scientific superpower. Despite some internal opposition from the Communist Party, the importance of these achievements was appreciated against the backdrop of World War II. Thanks to Sechenov's brilliance, a new era began not only in the USSR but throughout the world. And this is where things begin to take a more interesting turn. In World War II, the USSR declared war on Nazi Germany in 1939, which is not exactly how that went down in real life, where in 1939 the Nazis invaded, well, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and they didn't declare war on the Soviet Union until 1941. As it states that this is to undermine Germany's plans to establish a Third Reich in Europe, meaning that in this universe, the Soviets actually got the upper hand on the Germans and attacked first. Though it gets more interesting when we look at the Brown Plague, that came to be the greatest tragedy of the war. This was a plague that seemed to ravage the world until the post-war era, where it was only through the dedication and ingenuity of the Soviet scientists that the terrible epidemic that claimed millions of lives in the USSR and throughout Europe was finally stopped. A polymer vaccine called Redemption, invented by Sechenov and Zakharov, put an end to the spread of the plague once and for all, and the Soviet Union earned a reputation as the saviour of the entire world. From here, it swiftly moves us on into Soviet industrialization. The impressive success of Sechenov and Zakharov and their fellow scientists forced the Communist Party to reconsider its attitude towards scientific breakthroughs. The funding of Facility 3826's project was colossal, especially by the standards of post-war period. The art book goes on to say how this turned only in a few years the Soviet Union into an economic and industrial powerhouse, which caused many rivalries between countries like the USA in similar ways to what it did in real life, where the USA and the Soviet Union became great rivals, beginning the Cold War. Though our story of polymer Further advances in the year 1955, all sorts of robots from combat to construction models greatly simplified the lives of both Soviet people and workers in other countries. However, there was still a huge gap between the average user and an experienced operator. Operators and engineers were needed almost everywhere to program the machines, oversee their work, give them orders, and make sure they achieved their goals. This is actually very interesting when you factor in Soviet class ideology, because the communism is a very class-conscious ideology. So the idea that they're specifically pointing out this creates, like, sort of reworks the class divides in people is rather interesting and goes on to inform a lot of what happens in the game. Though now we get onto our beloved characters, and with no surprise it starts us off with our plucky protagonist, Agent P3. Sergei Alexeyevich Nechayev, formerly Agent Plutonium of the Argentum Group, is now Sechenov's personal spec ops specialist. Before the tragic events in Bulgaria that led to him and Agent Blesner receiving a fatal injury, he had been distinguished by a rustic, cheerful personality as well as his diligence and thirst for adventure. During rehabilitation, the agent's face and skin were successfully reconstructed. His limbs were implanted with steel bones made from the latest PTA6 alloy, and his muscles were replaced with implants. After his recovery, P3 drastically changed, becoming an entirely different person. The key reason for this transformation lay in the change in his memories. All information about his former wife, Agent Blesner, was deleted from his brain. As a result of this change, P3's personality also underwent a transformation. Nechayev became more unsociable, withdrawn, rude and gloomy. His speech also became littered with profanity, which all Argentum members studiously avoided. Basically, he becomes the bad-mouthed bad boy that we know and love in the game. Moves us on to show how they animated him, like a lot of the attacks in games and the cutscenes where they used a lot of motion capture, and I really love this stuff. I enjoy motion capture, and it adds a lot of weight to an animation. But more interestingly, over to the right hand side here, there are different versions, 24 versions of his head, so we can look on the face of what our protagonist might have been. And of course, up next is Nachayev's partner Charles. Chariton Radenovich Zakharov was Sechenov's closest friend, although many people have emphasized that while the scientists had good professional relationships, no one ever saw any indication of true friendship over the years they worked together. He participated in most of Sechenov's projects, starting from the early pre-war period. So one of the twists in the game, and this is a spoiler for you all, is that Charles, and Agent Nachayev's glove actually turns out to be Zakharov, one of the scientists who worked with Sechenov, as in like his mind or whatever was put in this glove. Which is, I suppose, why throughout the game Charles has more of an insight into who Sechenov actually is as a person. Where Sechenov puts the welfare of mankind at the forefront of his work, Zakharov simply enjoyed taming the laws of the universe and subordinating them to the power of his mind. Unfortunately, his misanthropy and indifference extended to his own person, which led to his death in an incident with a Jellyman prototype after neglecting safety standards. Next up is the big man himself, Sechenov. Dmitry Sergeyevich Sechenov is one of the most outstanding scientific minds of the modern world, not only the USSR but throughout the world. A former neurosurgeon, he is currently a specialist in a number of different fields. Sechenov was a student of the famous scientist Bekhterev. I'm actually going to quickly look up if he's a real person. Would you look at that? Vladimir Bekhterev was a Russian neurologist and the father of objective psychology. As it would so turn out, he was a real person. Check this out. His death, according to Moroz's 1989 and Serashevsky, mystery surrounds the death of Bekhterev. Bekhterev was a former co-founder of the first All-Russian Congress of Neurologist Psychiatry held in December 1927, which is, I think, the same year Joseph Stalin came to power, and keep that man in mind, and was appointed as an honorary president of the Congress on December 23rd, 1927, after having lectured on child neurology at the Congress, Bekhterev went to the Kremlin to examine Joseph Stalin, which, fucking hell, that's going down south quick. About 3 hours later, he came back to the Congress for a meeting and said to some colleagues there, "I have just examined a paranoiac with a short, dry hand the day after Bekhterev suddenly died, causing speculation that he was poisoned by Stalin as revenge for the diagnosis." Well, yeah, as it were. Bekterev's regular activities in the autumn and winter months of 1927, and even up to the last days of his life, showed no indication of worsening health despite the scientist more than 70 years of age. Moreover, after Bekterev's death, Stalin and Bekterev's name and all of his works were removed from Soviet textbooks. Well, there's Stalin disappearing someone else for you. I guess Stalin's gonna do what Stalin's gonna do. And beyond that, we get just some interesting designs for Sergei. But after that, we get Molotov. Not the premier, the USSR, as I thought he was, because I thought they may have changed the premier because they wouldn't have wanted to use the actual premier, Nikita Khrushchev, at the time. But Khrushchev is mentioned later on, so I guess he's still in universe. Though authoritative, proud and ambitious, Molotov is a classic apparatchik and careerist. He made his way to the top at any cost. I mean, that's what it says. And highly values his current position. He's confident in his mental superiority. Although animal instincts and cunning are his real strengths, Molotov is a long-time and consistent opponent of Sechenov. He will seize any opportunity to remove Sechenov from his post and put one of his cronies in his place. According to Molotov, Sechenov is needless, undermining the Soviet system. Sechenov is needlessly undermining the Soviet system with his innovations and social experiments. Effectively, Sechenov is like the sort of as it literally says, the party apparatchik. He's the upper class of the party, the political head, and the Politburo is directly mentioned in Atomic Heart. And after that, oh my goodness, we get everybody's favourite, the twins. These two are basically like carrying the entire market for this game on those fucking arched backs of theirs, bouncing off their ass cheeks all the way down to the bank. Right and left, the twins. These ballerina combat robots are Sechenov's personal guards, elegant and deadly. They're capable of protracted battles and ready to fulfill any order. Right and left's masks conceal terrible truth. The robots are actually Ekaterina and Nachev and her polymer clone, clad in armor and equipped with cybernetic prosthesis. The woman's brain is still alive, but her mind has left her body. Cloning also failed to restore her consciousness. This life-saving experiment may have been a failure, but Sechenov was able to turn this insight into his advantage. That's actually really interesting, because I remember seeing a video where they do the no clip thing and they look behind their masks and you can actually see the face of a person behind the mask. Now, the comments speculated they just got the model of a girl and modelled around it, these robots, but as it looks like in the actual story, these were like girls who died, who they tried to revive but failed and put them into this. That's really dark. Although moving on, it also shows the motion capture of them, where they got an actual ballerina, Anita Pudakova, to do a lot of the acting for them. The twins are inspired by the images of ballerinas and figure skaters. Their fighting style represents a blend of rhythmic gymnastics and BDSM. It really does. It really does. The whip arm also continues the antenna concept from P3's glove, but in this case, it is hypertrophied and made much more powerful. Well, I'm just saying, remember, when you find yourself looking at these ballerinas on Rule 34, remember, those are dead chicks, right? They're literally called left and right, fucking hell, but those are dead people in there. You're a necrophile. This is why we stick with our refrigerator, babe. That refrigerator do know how to treat a Mayan rat. Well, carrying on our trend of strong women, we come to our next character, Filatova, Larissa Androvina Filatova is a top-notch neurosurgeon, Zakharov's comrade in arms, and Petrov's girlfriend. Ooh, he's got a girlfriend, a talented employee and specialist. She's distinguished by intelligence and subtle manipulative behaviour. After a long friendship with Viktor Petrov, she developed deep feelings for him and became a faithful assistant in his subversive activities, albeit without justifying his methods. As an idealist, Filatova opposes Sechenov's plan to suppress the will of the members of Collective 2.0 and is willing to do anything to protect this. Here are a few of the designs for her. There's actress Marina Rudenko, who is playing Filatova. And then we get our main man, our main villain throughout the series, Petrov. Viktor Vasilievich Petrov is a robotics engineer and programmer who is involved in the development of Collective 2.0. Born in 1922, he is now 35. Due to his conceit and nervous nature, instead of admiring the facility's leading scientists, he was deeply jealous of their achievements, so when the CIA promised him a hefty reward, Petrov conspired with several colleagues to sabotage the facility and cause catastrophic damage. Thanks to Stockhausen, his plan was revealed and Petrov was arrested and sentenced to community service at Vavilov. Though there is a bit more of interesting information about Petrov's character here. Petrov was supposed to be your typical introverted nerd, but during rehearsal, actor Oleg Kursachev, brought a completely unexpected layer of madness, a kind of strong dark energy to the character. This is how the scene with robots in the theatre came to be, and the entire theatre was transformed and began to feel much more powerful. Victor ended up being a mixture of the Joker and a hacker. That is as it says, that's a strange combination, sure. And of course we get further designs for Petrov and his actor Oleg Kursachev. Oh, here's the guy that I thought was a Nazi scientist, but the art book seems to have proven me wrong. Stockhausen. Michael Stockhausen Gordenzweig is a German scientist of a Jewish descent who worked in a secret Berlin laboratory during the war, and him being of Jewish descent kind of removes my theory that he was a Nazi scientist. That's thrown out the window. He survived the first outbreaks of the Brown Plague in the dying city of Berlin and was later rescued by Soviet soldiers with the help of forged documents. He changed his name, trying to avoid punishments for the Reich's crimes. Okay, well maybe I remember he is a Nazi scientist, but it's just Jewish for no reason. Before getting infected, he had a phenomenal memory, but after the onset of the disease, he lost his ability and never regained it, although he did not regret the loss. Thanks to his perseverance, cunning and ability to detect the slightest change in mood in his leaders, Stockhausen quickly climbed the corporate ladder, demonstrating talent as a manager and schemer. As an East German scientist, he was recruited by the facility to meet a hiring quota, but quickly earned Sechenov's respect. He now tries to be useful to his bosses without ignoring his own interests. He was behind Petrov's arrest after being one of the first people to gain Petrov's trust. He immediately informed on him. This fucker's the snitch. It says here every game has an anti-hero and this one is no exception. I mean, I suppose the Nazi scientist who snitches to Stasi probably is a bit of an anti-hero. Throughout the game he does act like a real dick, mind you. Oh, and here's my favourite girl ever. If you don't like this, if this girl isn't like best girl from this game, if you don't think Granny Xena is the best, then you're a fool, right? You fool, you get out of it. Go fuck your animated corpses. I'm gonna stick with Granny Xena. Lieutenant Colonel Zeneda Petrovna. So I'm butchering these Russian names, I'm very sorry. Zeneda Petrovna Muravyova, Granny, we'll just call her Granny Xena, is a communications officer working under Sechenov's command. She is responsible for secret government communications and reports directly to Khrushchev. And there's Nikita Khrushchev, the guy, you know, that he was the leader of the Soviet Union, for anyone who wanted to know. Well, after Stalin died, he became the leader. After a tragedy involving her daughter, she partially lost faith in the ideas and infallibility of Sechenov and now blames him for what happened to Ekaterina. She is firm and strong-willed, but disguises it under the mask of hot-tempered, hysterical old woman, using prejudices about the incompetence of female officers in her favour. She has extensive knowledge of the facility's activities, excellent combat training, and access to various secret systems. Most employees consider her a local celebrity. She is a celebrity in my heart. Actress Irina Tseneva, who played Granny Xena, and this is the very pretty old darling who played Granny Xena. Sketch out of Granny Xena's outfit. The decision to add an old lady to the game was made after Artyom told us 100 or 200 times, I don't remember exactly, maybe 500, that we couldn't have a game without a grumpy old lady. No sooner said than done. So this guy Artyom basically forced them to add in Granny Xena. She is the best addition to this game. You cannot change my mind. Since we've gone over all the main characters, I want to get onto locations. The first is the Pavlov complex. Pavlov is a facility for the study of physics and chemistry of the body. Anthropogenesis, I said the word, don't worry, and medicine. It is led by Ivan Petrovich Pavlov himself. Thanks to the achievements of modern medicine, Pavlov is officially the oldest working citizen in the USSR at 106. And the Pavlov complex looks way more horrifying than the starting facility does, that's for sure, with all these, like, what even is that? What is that? Are they alive? That depends on what you mean by alive. For traditionalists and hypocrites, this is just an artificial form of being. For me, it's life in a much more delightful sense. Which is, sure buddy, I just agree with that totally. Next up on our list is the theatre. The Maya Plesetsk... these Russian names. The theatre is the world's first robotic theatre and the first cultural institution in the USSR named after an artist during her lifetime. It is the most prestigious theatre in the country in terms of visitation and the most spectacular in terms of staging. Although Maya herself denies this, there is a very widespread opinion that she is depicted in one of the most memorable parts of the theatre's decor, a huge statue made by robots. Here's a few more pictures of the theatre. We get to have a better look at screenshots from the game. All of Sechenov complexes were created as test displays for Soviet colonies in the Moon and Mars. So all of this, really, as mentioned, is just effectively them trying to get to space. It's like a show facility, really. Needless to say, everyone who works at our company has played Portal and Portal 2. I played Portal 2. You can find me playing Portal 2 co-op on my channel if you want to watch that. And that includes several truly ambitious level designers. Understanding their passion for experimentation, we set them the tasks of coming up with several mechanics that could potentially be combined with each other. After a year of experimenting and sifting through dozens of options, we weeded out all the very best ideas. 3 mechanics form the basis of gameplay and level design used at the test sites: magnets, transformers, and balls. About 20 locations were created, although a few ended up making it into the game. Each test site represents a unique set of challenges. Have you completed them all? No, I have not, because I haven't completed the game. But the next location we get is the Icarus platform, which is actually the place that we start the game off in that boat ride, and there's that guy walking that pig. And the Icarus platform is a very spectacular opening, and it is very beautiful. Though unfortunately they don't say much about it. So we'll have to move on to the Vavilov complex, which is the first complex that you play through in the game. Vavilov is an agrarian and biological complex that is actively working on new plant species that will be used to terraform the planet. It has a stock of seeds from every species on Earth, as well as a large greenhouse system and test rooms that simulate adverse environmental conditions. In effect, this is pretty much trying to train people, or like train plants to be able to sort of develop in, or like testing how they'll be able to develop off-world, because in Atomic Heart, the Soviet Union is seeking to colonize other planets. Next up we have the VDNH. The VDNH is an expedition complex similar to its Moscow namesake, but dedicated exclusively to the achievements of the facility. It is available to most visitors. Its main zone is divided into 4 floors: Chelomy, Pavlov, Vavilov, and Sakhalin. Now, this, I believe, is the area I was just coming up to when I finished playing the game. This looks, yeah, I say it's a big display, and oh my goodness, there's that worm thing. This isn't where I'm going to have to fight this thing, is it? The scenery becomes the main goal, a presentation exhibition complex. It's like an open house on a moon base but built on Earth. Yeah, it is like one of those like, sort of, I mean, what more is there to say about this other than it is quite literally just an exhibition. It's pretty, though, mind you, it's very pretty, as many exhibitions tend to be. But next up is the unfortunate twist in the game, the Academy of Consequences, or AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is the primary archive and cybernetic center of the facility. It includes departments dedicated to forecasting, analytics and neural network experimentation. As one of the most secret facilities in the Soviet Union, it is not only accessible to its employees, most of them don't even know it exists. AI research, social experimentation, future predictions and even quantum predetermination are among the subjects studied every day by Facility 3826's elite staff. And here are a few designs of 3826. Well, not 3826, sorry. What was it called again? The Academy of Consequences, that's it. So the Academy of Consequences is where this game really starts to look like Bioshock. It's even referred to as Rapture, I believe, in the game. Or a sort of Rapture. And so this is where we can tell the Bioshock inspirations for this game begin to step in. The Academy is where the soldiers of Argentum, the most elite Spec Ops squad in Facility 3826, and the entire Soviet Union undergo their most intensive training. Highly classified techniques for improving perception, reflexes, and human potential can turn a soldier into a literal fighting machine, capable of rivaling not only human enemies, but even combat robots. However, the price paid by those who train at the Academy is high indeed, perhaps too high. And if you played the game, you'll know what that's referring to. Next, it discusses a bit about its open world. And hey, look, there's a little Karl Marx bust. As much of the game becomes very open world, you see a little bit of that at the start, but I haven't really gotten to that bit yet. The facility extends well beyond its scientific complexes, which are mostly underground. Roads, high-speed magnetic levitation trains, I almost said Leviathan trains, fields and farms are found here as well, forming a kind of small country with the facility's lab at its heart. Here are a few screenshots and renders of the overall area of the sort of world that you'll be traversing, and many of it is very sort of it's very pretty, right? I love games like this where they show this like beautiful landscape where it kind of like glows. It does have a very pretty aesthetic to it, and I really like that statue there. It goes on to discuss the statues in Atomic Heart. It mentions how the Soviet Union was very big into brutalist architecture, which it was, where, you know, it's just sort of grey, not very colourful with hard lines, right? Like the sort of hard edges is where you get the brutalist architecture. Though they also, in the Soviet Union, you'll notice this a lot in places like North Korea, even though they had this brutalist architecture, they erect a lot of monuments as well. And here it's no different. You can still see very beautiful, lovely looking monuments dedicated to the works and triumphs of its people. And next up we get a bit on the village, the station, and the limbo reality, which is more interesting because in this they say it's not that hard to make and sell a tragedy. Tragedy is everywhere and it's easily recognizable, but comedy is always hard, and it's also the raw material for genuine drama. And that is true because comedy helps you to empathize with what's going on better, especially if there's a ridiculous nature behind it. Like, to laugh and feel good about something does make it hit harder when then the tragedy strikes. As long as the tragedy itself also isn't played up for, you know, for laughs. Like, because you can have comedy with very serious tragedy, and many of the most tragic stories do have comedic elements written into them. But now we're going to discuss the melee weapons. Now, I won't look at, generally I won't look at too much of the weapons because, you know, it's a big stick, you hit things, you stab it or whatever. I'll quickly scroll through them. There's the old Swede, which is something you get at the start of the game, and I like this one, the thunderclap. My boy, you better sit still, or I'm gonna give you the thunderclap. What is interesting about the melee weapons that I want to look at is the fact that they made life-size replicas of these weapons that I assume did for the fun of it, though it looks like they also made it for the motion tracking to give these weapons a proper feeling of weight. Atomic Heart's bladed weapons were recreated in the form of full-size replicas by Belarusian blacksmith Alexei Dorogov. Yeah, if you want any blacksmithing done, I guess go to that guy. They were later sent to the studio and became part of the office decor, reminding the Mundfish team what a brutal and dangerous world they were creating. I hope they use these in the motion capture, because they would be really good for it. Like, these things look absolutely, like, beautiful. They're brutal, man, but they also look cool as hell. Next we'll go on to firearms and polymer weapons. As we said before, these are just, you know, they're guns, shoot things. We'll quickly scroll through them. I wonder if they made any replicas of these. That would also be pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if they'd get away with just basically becoming a firearms company at that point. But I assume they could try it. Finally, we have the creatures and robots that you'll see throughout the game. It starts us off with just the basic flying ones. And, you know, it explains what they were used for, and it moves us on next to the Beliash. The large MA9 robot is used for assembling and welding tasks. Also known as the Beliash, it can easily carry a load of 1,000 pounds. The average lifespan of this robot is at least 20 years. Robots have lifespans. Do they intentionally give robots lifespans? Unlike the MA7 and MA8, which handled manual or semi-automatic ordering, the MA9 uses argon arc welding technology. Moving on, we get to the Doctor, which this is freaky. I would not want this thing operating on me. Like, I don't know about you, but just fucking, you might as well just put me out of my misery at that point. Oh, and here we have Natasha. Now, this is a big girl. This is a big girl. You think you can handle a big girl like this? The large land-based robot loader NAT256 can carry objects weighing up to 5,000 pounds and perform heavy repairs. Natashas are already used at all construction sites in the Soviet Union. The enormous power of its engine and batteries ensures that Natasha can operate for a full 24 hours without recharging. Without Natashas, the construction of hydroelectric power plants such as Dnipro, Kubichev and Stalingrad, as well as Baikonur Cosmodrome, would not have been possible in such a short time. Some Natasha models have special rocket engines developed under the leadership of Fyodor Valentinovich Korolov. Once again, I'm sorry about the pronunciation of Russian names. They allow this extremely heavy robot to easily reach giant heights provided that safety regulations are observed. People without special protection should not wear a Natasha when it's about to jump. Should not be near, not where. They should not be near a Natasha when it's about to jump. The next is the Rafik, the engineer. These things are freaky, right? I don't like when I first saw one in Atomic Heart, like it stayed still and then just disappeared. If you watch my playthrough of it, then you'll know what I mean. But this thing is horrifying. The next up is the Labourer. I discussed these a bit more in my other video that I made on Atomic Heart when I gave a first look at it when it was just about to come out. And I mentioned, as I'm going to mention again, that these things are designed for animal husbandry. So why do they have a... So I know they have a fat saw blade to, like, I guess, logging, sure, but could you not have ones without a saw blade that could do logging? The Dewdrop. Now, I'm not fully sure about this one. I've definitely not seen this one in game. The multi-legged Dewdrop is a heavy bionic creature. Its huge biopolymer muscles mass contained within a specific synthetic bulb shell not only allows the entity to maintain its shape but also facilitates transportation on an industrial scale. This biorobot is used in the mining industry. A Dewdrop can lift heavy loads and drill wells using a mechanical laser. The Bumblebee, this thing that said where that Natchev said should be called the flying pig or something like that. It kind of does look like an insect with all its arms coming out, but this, from the looks of it, is just for heavy industry construction, like transport, really. The next is the lab tech. These are lab assistants. From the looks of it, they help scientists conduct experiments and analyze data in the laboratory of scientific facilities. Why their face needs to open up like that, I will never know. That seems completely needless. It goes into a bit more about the details of them actually making these models, and they are extremely detailed. Like, they seem to have rendered in all of the components for them, which is very impressive. The next is the Ploosh. The terrifying Ploosh is the endoskeleton of an experimental bionic creature, a reanimated blob of polymer muscle with an implanted dog brain. The Ploosh usually walks on its hind legs, but it can also run on all fours at the speed of a wild wolf. This bio-robot is capable of transforming its paws, making them several times longer and jumping great distances with ease. Next is the Hog 7. Oh, this dickhead. I don't like this one. The Hog 7 is a large surveying robot used to collect rare plants and rocks. Despite its impressive bulk, the Hedgie can reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour in an alternate movement mode called Tumbleweed. When accelerated, the robot retracts its long paws and rolls. There are special drills and a compressor inside the Hedge's paws which can easily collect valuable resources from the ground. I will tell you what though, that is actually really interesting that that's just made to collect things. It does have a really cool design as much as it just looks like an Omnidroid from The Incredibles. And the next is the Mutant. The flying mutant represents the unexpected result of a symbiosis between a sprout and a human corpse. It's like that, I wonder if it says it here, but it is like that fungus that infects small insects and controls them, usually just to like get them eaten. But why you would create a plant with the ability to do that? Like, surely they would know that the plant has the ability to do this. Why you'd create a plant with the ability to? I have no idea. No idea at all. The Sechenov was smoking some real shit when he did this. And this thing, the Rotorobot, this looks freakish. What is this? It's an automatic self-propelled rotary mower. So it's like a so it's for agriculture. Why does its mouth need to do that? I can get the scythes, but why does its mouth need to do that? Next, we'll discuss the Collective 2.0 ecosystem. This is effectively the robot's ecosystem, right? The things surrounding them. You got reporting and recording, hive repair facility, wind bending power generation, the Hawk, which is like a spy survey drone, Dandelion CCTV cameras. That's very Soviet that to have CCTV cameras there. Shipping containers, the Condor, Hackarachnid, Hawk terminal, a chirper, multi-blocker, Thought. These are the little things that I'm planting into people's heads. And Nora. Oh, fucking hell, so this thing. Alright, don't move. Do not move. She will try to molest you. The Nora Repair Vendor is a multifunctional assembly device for use within workspaces. It allows users to assemble any tool required by facility employees in the shortest possible time out of any raw material. With a special level of access, the user can make and upgrade weapons as well as ammunition. Is that really all you're going to say about her? You're not going to say how she's like constantly trying to touch us up and get into our pants throughout the entire game, like she is a sex pest, and you're just going to ignore that? And lastly, finally, we have the graphic design. Now this is just the different art and sketches and even the old Soviet looking posters that the artists did to get a good idea of what was going on, as well as these comic strips showing the cartoons which they uploaded on their YouTube channel, which Mundfish uploaded on their YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. We have the icons, the HUD, and lastly The last bit is just about the team, and I think we should read off statements from the 4 major developers of this game. A huge thanks to you, my family, to my parents, Tatiana and Vladimir Sedov, and to my dear grandma, I'm very sorry for butchering these names. Nadezhda Petrovna Aksenova, a World War II veteran, for believing in me and supporting me. Evgenia Sedova. A very warm thanks to my parents, Susanna and Igor. Well, those are easier names to pronounce, for their overwhelming support along this difficult path. Robert Bakratuni. Thanks to you all who support me and doubt that I'm crazy. Archim Galeev. Thanks to my dear wife Marina and all my family for trusting in me and giving me support every day throughout the years. Oleg Gorodishenin. And here are some pictures of the studio while they were working on the game. And that concludes the art book with the same collage of images that we got at the start. And to wrap up, that was a dive into Atomic Heart's art book. Now, Atomic Heart as a game, I have been so far rather enjoying it. It starts off as a bit of a drag and starts off rather slow, but it does pick up as you go into it, and I found it a rather enjoyable game, and I'm glad most people did as well. And if you enjoy my content, be sure to check out the rest of my channel. Though for now, dear viewers, that'll be all from me, and I'll catch you next time.
Yes,